Okay, so let's get the elephant out of the room, because I know everybody is going to be talking about it because of the panel we got in this chapter with Escanor coughing up blood. So this panel leaves a lot of room for speculation. There's many theories that many have been talking about, I've seen personally, and I want to kind of, shine some light on it, what I think is personally going on. But to go right into it, though, there is a scene in this chapter where Escanor, he's acting like typical Escanor, he's being prideful, and besides the trolling, which I'll get into, I'll talk about in a bit, but after all of that, after his coughing fit, you see how he looks at his hand, and there's blood in his hand. And this leads us to believe that something is wrong with Escanor, because you just don't cough up blood, okay? You just didn't discuss. You don't just cough up blood if something is wrong. Now, let's talk about what everybody is saying. So, the first thing many are saying is that most likely what is going on here is that Escanor's body cannot take what he has within him, the blessing from Mel. As we know, Mel, him having all that power, it was never meant to be inside of a human body. Now, Escanor has stated that he was born like this, so if it really was destroying his body, shouldn't it have killed him a while back? Well, that's a typical thing many would think about, and actually say, maybe that is the reason why Escanor is, showing signs of getting sick or something. He's coughing up blood, is because his body cannot take, what is within him, the blessing from the Archangel. But here's the thing, though. Escanor, it does make sense why this could be happening. And the reason why is because, remember where Escanor was for majority of the series? Remember why we never really saw him in the series? Remember he was in, a cave, running a bar, and he wasn't really doing anything? And he was not getting any sunlight? What if the reason why Escanor was in that bar in the first place, hiding out, was because he knew that his body had a time limit. And so he decided to take it easy, sit inside of the bar, and not use his power. That could be the reason why he was out of commission for a while and he hid inside there, because he knew that if he ever needed to come out one day and help out, he needed to make sure he had enough time to be able to fight. And so that could be the reason why he held himself up into a bar for so long in the middle of a cave, because he didn't want to die early. Now, as we know, he's a prideful man. Escanor is a very prideful man, so he will never admit that he is dying. That's just the end of discussion right there. So even if this man is dying, he knows that his time is coming soon, he will never admit that, because with pride and arrogance, the greatest weakness is you cannot admit when you're wrong or admit when you're weak. You cannot admit these certain things. And so Escanor, obviously, he knows. He knows for a fact that he might be coming close to his end. Even if he was born with it, he most likely could be dying very soon because his body cannot take it. Which, like I said, would explain why he was in a cave. Now, there is another possibility, okay? Another possibility is that maybe Escanor is still damaged after his fight with Meliodas. Now, we all do know that he did technically recover and all that, yes. But even then, though, it was a very serious fight. It was a big fight. And as we know, Escanor took 99% damage. He took a lot of damage. He went into the one form, he went savage mode, okay? And so when you think about it, there is a likely possibility maybe in that moment he pushed himself so far that it hurt his body, and he's still trying to recover after everything that happened. Maybe he's not necessarily dying, it just he went so far, Meliodas hit him so hard that he still has yet to fully recover. Or it could be a mix of both. Maybe because of what Meliodas did to Escanor has in turn caused where Escanor's body is starting to fall apart. Because maybe that was the first time Escanor really had to go all out. Maybe that was the first time Escanor really ever had to use the one mode against someone. And so because of that, that is why his body is starting to show signs of getting sick and dying. Is because he had to go that far. But that's a lot of speculation that could happen here. Either A, Escanor's body's breaking apart, or he's still hurt after Meliodas, or there's another theory that someone said, and I kind of doubt this one, but it's another possibility. Someone also said that maybe the reason why Escanor is dying is because maybe his pride has been hurt completely. As we know what's been going on in the recent chapters, Escanor, he feels horrible about himself. For instance, let's look at the last chapter. When he was trying to knock on the door and confront, Merlin and try to make her feel better, he realized everything he would say would just be horrible to say. So he walked away and didn't do anything. Now, obviously, he would never admit that. He would never admit that to Merlin or admit that to anyone, but he knew personally how messed up that was. And I think at the first time he realized how much of a curse his power really was in that moment. And so what if the reason why he is getting sick right now and why it looks like he's dying is because maybe he is losing his pride. Maybe he realizes that he is not this invincible monster that he always said he was, which that could be affecting his abilities. Now, like I said, this is just speculation, and it's potential possibilities, but I just want to throw that out there. That's what everybody's thinking right now. And what do you think is most likely going on with Escanor? Do you think it's because he's dying? Do you think it's because of the fight with Meliodas? Or do you think it's because he's losing pride within himself? One or the other. How do you feel about that? But, anyways, getting off of that topic, though, let's talk about that, glorious panel. Like, yo, Nakaba. Good man Nakaba Sensei for this Diane panel. Like, good man. Like, yeah, that's quality. Oh, yes. So, I'm gonna say, design-wise, I really like Diane's new design. I mean, I think it really complements her assets, and I think King also agrees with me on that aspect, too, of this chapter. And speaking of character designs, besides just Diane, can we talk about Escanor's design? Like, yo, my man looks freaking epic, dude! Like, yo, I love it! I love his outfit! A really good outfit. Oh my god! Really looking forward to Escanor, future fights with him, and this could potentially set him up for possibly dying this arc, which is a whole separate discussion because of everything going on in this chapter, but basically, I'm going to say right now, Escanor's design, really nice, digging it. It really looks good, and it reminds me, honestly, of, like, the artistic touch that Nakaba Sensei used to use on Bon. You remember how Bon's outfit was in the past when he was actually still relevant, and also what's going on in the anime right now for Season 2. I mean, Escanor's design looks very similar to Bon's in some ways. But, moving on to the next design. Okay. Galther. Galther's design. Yo, the troll had me dead. The troll had me dead and confused. Like, Escanor thought Merlin came up to try to confront him and talk to him, and then as soon as he's like, Merlin, that's Merlin's voice, he turns around and he sees it's Galther posing. I'm like, yo, like, it's a trap, and it's just like, oh my god, like, look, I know Galther's always been used as that type of character to kind of look like a trap. I mean, he's always had that feminine side to him. And so seeing that design, the way he was positioned in the chapter, I'm like, Nakaba, come on now, like, please, I'm not a big fan of traps, but my god, I was just questioning myself when I saw that Galther, panel in this chapter. I'm like, what the hell? But I mean, yeah, Galther trolled the hell out of Escanor, and that made me laugh hard. I could not stop from laughing just because how Escanor himself got trolled. You can see the man was so angry. He was so livid. He just walked off. Like, he didn't even say anything. He just walked off. He's like, I'm like, not dealing with this. And the man just walks off. And that, I had a good laugh there. So thank you so much for that, Nakaba Sensei. But okay, so let's get into the serious stuff of this chapter, okay? Besides the Escanor, which was serious. So, the Holy War has really begun now. Like, the war has started to where both sides are charging at each other. End of the chapter pretty much states that. And we get some confirmation that Hindi, he has not been brainwashed, which makes me kind of upset with Hindi quite a bit as a character, because I know Hindi is a druid and all that, okay? I know he's, been taught to basically worship the goddesses and all of that. I understand that. I do. However, Hindi has always been that type of character that was very smart, very intelligent, and just seeing how he's not being brainwashed after everything he's been witnessing in the latest chapters, I'm like, Hindi, you're really disappointing me right now. You were that first villain in Taizai. You're very smart. I mean, even if you were being controlled by Frondrin, you're a very smart guy. You've shown this many times, and so seeing how he is not being brainwashed, but he's still following Rudisill like that, it makes me disappointed in him. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty disappointed in Hindi as a character, unless it's a whole elaborate ruse. Maybe he is playing Rudisill, and maybe he's going to try to stab him in the back. I mean, maybe. But even then, though, just like, I really hope Hindi isn't just blindly following Rudisill because he just worshipped the goddess clan. I hope not, because I'd be very disappointed in him as a character because of just how I've always loved Hindi. I always thought he was a cool character, and just if he really is following Rudisill like that, just disappointment. Just straight up disappointment. So, yeah, also, another confirmation too, yeah, majority of the army is under the effects of the brainwashing from the Goddess Clan. It's called, Breath of the Bless, I think that's the name of it, or Bless of the Breath, it's one of those two names. But, they are being brainwashed. So majority of the army is under control, and that does mean that they don't really have a will of their own, and this is why they're so, riled up to go fight and all that without non-stop, rest, or no rest at all. They just want to keep going, is because of what the Goddess Clan is doing. So there's going to be a lot of deaths. I do see a lot of deaths in this upcoming arc. Now, let's talk about the big bombshell of, the chapter, okay, or this arc in general we're getting into. It's very apparent that this arc is going to be the final arc. At least for Taizai. We might eventually get a part 2 or something, because Nakaba said that's a possibility, but that's a separate discussion for one other day. Big thing is that this is a war arc, and I have seen a lot of manga, a lot of shonen manga, do war arcs. Now, I'm not talking about Kingdom, okay? Kingdom, it's a master at war arcs. It's quality, okay? If you've never read Kingdom and you like war arcs, go read that. That's a 10 out of 10 manga. But, I mean, I've seen a lot of shonen. And a lot of shonen, they typically do have a war arc as their finale. And usually when it comes to war arcs, they're not really that good. Like, they can be good in certain points, but most of the time they tend to fall flat on their face. And the reason for that is because they overstay their welcome. They stay way too long, and it just drags things out, and then people get very bored with it. Or it retcons things, just ruins certain plot points of the story, and I really hope that this arc doesn't do that, because I've seen some really quality shonen have this, giant war arc, and it just ruins the series. It just slowly goes downhill and worse as time goes on, and I just hope that is not the case for Taizai. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, I'm just saying I've seen a lot of war arcs. I hope Taizai doesn't fall into that loop of having a war arc just for the sake of having one because it's a shonen, having a final big arc for the series, and it just ends up being very horrible. I just hope it's not like that. But, I do say, though, that there is going to be some major character deaths. I do sense it. There was some flags thrown out here and there throughout this chapter. Number one, Escanor. Escanor, I see him being set up to die. I do. I definitely see him being set to die. And the reason why is because Escanor, at the end of the day, he's pretty OP. I've always talked about this. I've always said this. I've always accepted the fact that Escanor, one of these days, he's going to take an L. He's going to take a big L, and he's going to die. I've always said this. You can go back to my previous videos 100 chapters ago, like when he was first introduced. I've always said I know he's going to take an L one day, where he's going to have that impactful, scene where he's going to take a big L, and, he's going to kind of fall from grace. But I feel like his first major loss is probably going to be his last. He's probably going to die. Because with him showing signs of his body weakening, whatever it may be, I do think a fight he's probably going to get into, he's going to die. Either it's going to be Estarossa going in for that backstab, or it's going to be Rudisill being crusty. One or the other. I definitely see one or the other. I don't think Meliodas will take the man down. I don't think Meliodas would do that. But I do believe that Escanor is probably going to die this arc. I definitely see it. Most likely he will sacrifice himself to save Merlin and probably save Arthur, which would kind of give closure to his character development and all that, and accepting Arthur as a person or someone that, could be with Merlin to protect Merlin. I could definitely see that, but I'm just saying that he definitely has a flag on his back after this chapter. Another character that has a flag on their back is definitely one of the three misfits, either Grimoire, Hauser, or Gilfunder. One of those three are definitely going to die. Very apparent. If I had to assume anything, if anything would hold emotional weight, I'd say Grimoire dying would be probably one of the most emotional deaths, and the reason why is because Grimoire has that connection to Dreyfus, and if he dies in this war, Dreyfus is going to get extremely upset. Now, if Gilfunder dies, I feel like Margaret or the body of Margaret, or Margaret in general, that's being controlled by Rudisill, she will probably get extremely upset and probably disconnect from Rudisill if, Gilfunder dies. If Hauser dies, honestly, in terms of out of the three, he's kind of irrelevant. The only thing he really has done in this series in terms of, connection-wise, he only has a connection to Diane. And he was, a little bit of a love interest for Diane. But after the whole thing with King and stuff, it's just not possible for Hauser. He just can't compete and beat with Diane. Not gonna happen. So, yeah, Hauser, out of three, he definitely can be written off like it's nothing. I believe so. He's definitely could go. But Grimoire and Gilthunder, I could definitely see one of them dying too, for the character setup and all that. Now, the sins-wise, besides Escanor potentially dying, I could see Merlin dying. I could definitely see Merlin dying. Maybe that could, trigger Escanor to the point to where he goes all in and then dies. That would definitely be something. If not Merlin, I could definitely see, maybe Gowther pulling a previous Gowther. As we know, Gowther in the original war, he stopped it somehow. We don't really know how that happened in the first place. We never found out how the original Gowther stopped the war. And I feel like we're probably going to get some clarification with, our Gowther, the doll Gowther, and he might do the exact same thing and probably sacrifice himself. That is also something that could potentially happen. King and Diane, do I think they're going to die? If they do die, they're both going to die, and they're going to probably have a happily ever after in the afterlife. That's something I do see. Now, I do think Mon will probably pop back up in this arc. I do believe so. You'll probably come back in when everything, all hope is lost, everything is looking horrible. I do think Mon will probably pop up to save the day in some ways. And I do think that Elizabeth is going to have a major role, especially towards the end game, probably having to fight Meliodas or something, which would be pretty crazy if that does happen. But getting back on topic, though, the war arc, I have some high expectations for it, but at the same time, I just hope it doesn't fall into that same rut that I've seen so many other war arcs in Shonen, and just, hopefully Nakaba-sensei can, navigate around it. I mean, Nakaba, he isn't, always 10 out of 10. I admit that. I love Taizai. It's a great series. And I know that Taizai does have its little dips sometimes in quality. I will admit that. I admit it. But even then, though, he is a pretty good writer for shonen standards. So I hope he doesn't, fail on this arc. I do wish him the best of luck. And I do hope that it turns out to be relatively fun. But with that, I think I'm going to end this video here. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And I love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.